So you've probably already heard about it. It's been all over the news. However, today there can be no other topic than DeepSeek's newly developed AI model that is taking the world by storm. And I'm gonna explain to you why it's not as big of a deal as anybody is claiming it to be, and why NVIDIA is definitely not in for a huge dump from here onward. Hello and welcome to another video by HKCM. My name is Joe, and today we are going to talk about NVIDIA and we're going to talk about Microsoft, the two companies mostly affected by the newest cutting-edge AI tool from the Chinese company DeepSeek. And in case you looked into your portfolio on Monday or some point this week, you probably noticed that it has been a bloodbath. And that's not only for everybody's darling NVIDIA, but also for the whole Nasdaq, who lost almost 6% at some point, but recovered quickly to a loss of only about 3%-ish. However, NVIDIA really was badly hit. Like you can see here, over 600 billion loss in a single day of market value. That of course has only been paper loss so far, so the value of the company jumped down by that much, meaning bad news and losses only for the paper hands. The real diamond hands, however, didn't occur any losses so far, and I am quite hopeful that they neither will so in the future. But before I'm getting ahead of myself, so on Monday, a 17% down for NVIDIA. That's major, and those 600 billion of market cap loss has been the biggest one-day loss in all of US history. And that probably wouldn't be a huge surprise, as you know that NVIDIA is one of the biggest companies in US history, and 17% for such a big player is definitely major. So, but what happened? I'm pretty sure that you're quite aware of the new AI model that has taken the world by storm, and that is on #1 in all the app stores. So we're talking about the AI called DeepSeek by a Chinese company. And the weirdest thing about it is that the company who launched DeepSeek is not even an AI company, but it is a hedge fund / private equity / philanthropy. That's kind of how they view themselves. And they kind of developed DeepSeek as a side gig of theirs. So what happened was they got a lot of NVIDIA GPUs, and they didn't use all of them all the time. So they employed most of them in mining operations in the crypto sector. However, they didn't have all of them running all the time. And so they rented it out to a other department within that hedge fund, within that company, and they just started training their very own AI model. And as you have probably heard in the past, running those AI models is hugely expensive and requires huge amounts of GPUs. However, that was up until today, because that company managed to train their models with only, I mean, it's still quite a bit, but with only 2.8 million GPU hours, and that is even on slower H800 GPUs by NVIDIA.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Powerful, way less powerful GPUs that China is allowed to use, because there is still sanctions by the US on China. So the most advanced GPUs by NVIDIA, you probably know NVIDIA is absolutely cutting edge technology in chip manufacturing. And so everybody who's running AI models at this time is betting on the most advanced and most highly efficient GPUs by NVIDIA. That should be the A100 currently, if I'm not mistaken. And I definitely don't want to get too technical, but the point is, this company was definitely not set up for success, but was set up for failure, because they only got less powerful GPUs, they only got few of them, and they managed to train their V3 model with only 2.8 million GPU hours. And there has been some speculation, it's not a completely clear number, they leave that somewhat in the shadows, but the GPT-4 model has probably been trained over around 60 million GPU hours, and that is on way more efficient A100 chips. So we're talking at least of one order of magnitude, probably more like a 40-50 fold higher demand that OpenAI had for their model than this V3 model succeeded in doing with the company DeepSeek. And so here in this paper you can see all their benchmarks, you can see how they performed over various tasks. You can see that on most of them they came up top. However, that was not the most cutting edge model, so this this was a comparison against, for example, Llama 3.1, against GPT-4o, and against Claude 3.5. And so that paper, whilst it came out even last month, so somewhere in 2024, still has not sparked any kind of huge controversy or shock in the markets even. So what has happened now? What has happened now is that DeepSeek didn't even launch a new model, but they launched somewhat of an addition to their model. So what they did is they invented a new reason capability for their model. And that is basically the thing that is so revolutionary and is taking the world by storm. So they based their reasoning capability with the R1 model on their just mentioned V3 model, which is already a month old and couldn't compete with the newest models of OpenAI, so with their O1, for example, or even with the newest Claude model, for example. However, with this R1 model, so that reasoning capability that they put on top of the V3 model, they absolutely supercharged their V3 model. And so currently, with this R1 model, they pretty much outperform OpenAI's O1 on all major benchmark, or at least are just within spitting distance from the performance that OpenAI's O1 is pumping out. So that, of course, was a huge shock, and the markets reacted with selling off NVIDIA like crazy. And I was kind of completely confused by that reaction, but I guess the reasoning behind that must have been, if it now is so much cheaper and so much easier to run AI models on way less efficient chips, probably NVIDIA won't be able to sell that many of their highly efficient, more expensive chips. And that then, of course, will lead to a lower expectation in revenue, a lower expectation in profit, and therefore resulting in a sell-off of NVIDIA stock. However, I do believe that that reasoning is completely faulty, and I am not alone with that opinion, and I am actually backed by no other different than Satya Nadella. You probably do know him, CEO of Microsoft, and he just tweeted out yesterday, I couldn't have said it more perfectly, Jevons paradox strikes again. To be honest, I, as of now, have not heard of Jevons paradox. I just learned about it in preparation of this video. However, he said Jevons paradox strikes again. As AI gets more efficient, accessible, we will see its use skyrocket, turning it into a commodity we just can't get enough of. And for all of you who are as poorly educated as myself, Jevons paradox, what does that mean? Jevons paradox occurs when technical advancements make a resource more efficient to use, thereby reducing the amount needed for a single application. However, as the cost of using the resource drops, overall demand increases, causing total resource consumption to rise. So what does that mean? It means that we will see probably with AI models a similar effect we saw with the mobile phone. You know, at some point way back in time, mobile phones actually used to be super big. I myself gotta admit, I am too young to remember those times, but there was a time when mobile phones were this big and they had to be carried around in a separate suitcase, and they costed thousands of dollars. And so companies manufacturing those phones were able to lock in huge profits, but as technical development proceeded, phones got smaller and smaller and cheaper and cheaper. And whilst that technical development, of course, made phones so much cheaper and decreased the amount of profit one could make with just selling a single phone, it also increased the demand for those phones because suddenly everybody needed one. So that is Jevons paradox in action. And what does that mean for NVIDIA now? I don't know, I'm no fortune teller, but I would expect that if now all the world just learned and all the world now saw that it's not the case that you need thousands and thousands of GPUs and you need the most complex infrastructure and a huge team to build it up, because those guys, they were only, I don't know, it was a department of less than 100 people and they pulled that off within only 2 or 3 months, I believe. And so such news, of course, will spark huge interest amongst many startups who up until this point have been completely discouraged of starting up their own AI endeavor, because they probably thought to themselves, you know what, I'm no idiot. There's no way of ever competing against OpenAI, no way of ever competing against Google, against Microsoft. But as of Monday this week, the tables have kind of turned. And the best part I didn't even mention. So the DeepSeek model is actually an open source model. How amazing is that? So that pretty much opens up a huge pathway for all kinds of different companies and startups to develop their very own AI models, meaning that even if companies like OpenAI, who are leaders in AI development, now need less of those NVIDIA chips, there will be boatloads of other startups, of other companies now rushing in to purchase more and more because they just learned, they just saw that it's not that hard to beat the current frontiers of AI development. And so as far as macro news go, I am hugely bullish. I believe this is immensely bullish news, even though NVIDIA as of Monday reacted with a huge sell-off of just mentioned 17%. It actually said 17%, but I believe from top to bottom that has been even worse. So top to bottom that has actually been 21%. So a fifth of the whole enterprise value wiped out in just a single day. But as just mentioned, I don't believe that will hold. I believe this news is hugely bullish for NVIDIA, and it has just been an immense misinterpretation by the market. The market makes errors sometimes. So, but long story short, what do we see from here in the charts? Our overreaching scenario as of now is unchanged, remains unchanged. We have concluded the top of wave 3 somewhere back in June of 2024, and from then onward we have been a corrective wave 4, which we concluded in September of last year, and since then we have been in the development of the final wave 5, which will at some point in the future and somewhere in the area of probably $200, maybe just shy of $200, will lead to the completion of the wave 5, which in turn will complete the overreaching wave 1. And for this, currently I cannot show you the most imminent time frame because we just made a fresh change to our scenario here, and that is reserved for our paid subscribers. And talking of subscriptions, as you're watching this video right now, our service will probably not yet be available in your country of residence. However, down there in the description there is a link bringing you to a landing page where you can just type in your email completely free of charge, and you will get notified as soon as we launch our international daily market analysis service, which will be coming in shortly, probably, hopefully still in Q1 of this year. So I would highly advise you to go down into the show notes, click on that link, type in your email, and you will get notified as soon as our international service launches. But back to topic. So another company that has of course been hugely affected by those news has been Microsoft. So as you probably know, they're the owners or partial owners of OpenAI, not 100% sure, but either way they're deeply involved with the whole shock to the system, with that huge blow that OpenAI just took with that release of DeepSeek. But considering that the sell-off has been pretty reasonable, so top to bottom that has been only 5%, quite reasonable, not a huge shock by any means, and so it shouldn't come as a surprise to you that our main scenario also is unfazed by that, remains unchanged. We're currently in a wave just freshly developing wave 5 after a wave 3, a WXY correction, and the conclusion of the wave 4 on mid-January of this year. And since then we've been in the development of wave 5, which is still ongoing, to finally conclude in a overreaching wave 1, probably somewhere in the area of 550 to 580. Maybe we will specify that more clearly at some point in the future as we get further along. And to take you on the most imminent time frame, same story here, not much has changed. We are here in the completion of the wave 4 and are currently in the process of finishing the wave 1, which would then in turn, of course, as you probably know, lead to a wave 2 correction, a wave 3 again, motive wave upward, which will be followed by a wave 4 correction and then be concluded by a wave 5, completing the next overreaching bigger motive wave. And that's pretty much it for today. And if you want to make sure to not miss our launch of our international market analysis service, go into the description, click on that link, fill in your email address, and you will get notified as soon as we are ready to announce the launch of our international daily market analysis service, which is currently only available in parts of Europe, but will be rolled out internationally very soon. And for free market updates about assets of my choice, please click on the subscription, turn on the bell notification, and you will get notified as soon as we push out many videos a week, giving you up-to-date market analyses on almost 200 different markets. So either way, see you very soon. Goodbye.